If I could have your attention, we need to deviate slightly from our tradition here because we're at the start of a new calendar year, and now with how things function and operate, board elections occur in November and board members take office in January. So to officially get this going, we need to have oaths of office because we have 3 board members that need to go through that process. So at this point in time, I would like Sandy Lewis, thank you, I'm used to you being on that. I'd like Sandy Lewis to take it from here and to administer oaths of office.
And the new board members and the repeating board members come forward, please. And if we can kind of line up right over in this area.
That's funny. I don't know. Okay. Finished. Thank you.
Okay, if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I did
that
that.
I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
Constitution of the State of Indiana,
the laws of the United States
the laws of the United States,
and the State of Indiana.
and the State of Indiana.
I will faithfully execute
I will faithfully execute
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a member of the Board of School Trustees
as a member of the Board of School Trustees
for Greater Clark County Schools,
for Greater Clark County Schools,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
All right, let's go back to, okay, I guess we will now do the call to order. So Renee, please show all board members present tonight. And if everyone will join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Well, at this point in time, we do a reorganization of the Board of School Trustees, and at this point, I would like to call for nominations for President of the Board of School Trustees.
I would like to nominate Mark Pavey to continue as president.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion related to that? Hearing none, all in favor for Mark Pavey as President of the School Board of Trustees, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mark Pavey, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I very much appreciate the confidence of my fellow board members. I'm looking forward to a great 2015 with a great team, so thank you much for the confidence. And with that, I'll go ahead and open up nominations for Vice President.
I would like to nominate Christina Gilkey for
Thank you.
Vice President.
Thank you, Ms. Butoff.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. White. Any other nominees? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? All right, congratulations, Ms.
Thank
Gilkey.
you. Thank you.
Now we'll move to Secretary.
I would like to nominate Mr. Hall to be Secretary for 2015.
Thank you, Mr. White.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. Any other nominations? All right, with that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? All right, congratulations, Mr. Hall. You now have the option, or you have the honor of moving to the secretary position. So,
People keep moving away from me.
All right, Dr. Mellon, I think we've got a couple of appointments.
Yes, congratulations, new officers, appreciate that. And the next order of business is a recommendation to appoint our treasurer as well as deputy treasurer. And if you don't mind, board, I'd like to make that as one recommendation. The treasurer is my recommendation would be for Dr. Tom Dykle to be treasurer and for Mrs. Joni Roberts to be deputy treasurer.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Any questions, comments? If not, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. All right, thank you, Dr. Mellon.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda tonight?
Board salutes, my fault.
Oh, I'm sorry, board salutes. How do we forget board salutes? All right, Mr. White, would you be so kind as to do our first board salute of Nate Hayden?
I will. Hello over there. The board salutes Charlestown music teacher Nate Hayden for being selected as the recipient of this year's Middle School, Junior High School Educator of the Year from the Indiana Music Education Association. Indiana Music Education Association is a nonprofit professional membership organization for music teachers, kindergarten through collegiate levels. Membership is currently around 1,100 active teachers with approximately 100 retired members and 700 collegiate members who are also music education majors. The Indiana Music Education Association provides professional development opportunities for music teachers, as well as extracurricular performance and learning opportunities for Indiana music students. Mr. Hayden will be presented with the award this month at the Professional Development Conference in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Congratulations, Mr. Hayden.
I don't know if people understand how great this is. This is extremely significant honor. Well, no. And that's part of the reason why we've been recognized and honored. I've had the good fortune of being around you, Nate, for a short period of time, but it did take me long to figure out the high level of quality that you bring to your program, to your students. The commitment, the passion that you have is exemplified by the performance that you get out of your students. And that's what a great teacher does. And I've seen it firsthand. I've enjoyed being around you and watching you work. And I'm extremely honored to have you as part of our school corporation. And we're very proud of you, and we're very lucky to have you. And congratulations.
Well, I was at my winter concert back in December, and it's when Ms. Leslie kind of made that big announcement. It was just kind of to say when I first took the job, I didn't really want the middle school part. But that's the irony of the whole thing. It's like, oh, it's a middle school, high school, and I'll teach middle school for a little bit, and then move over to high school. But they kind of keep me on, and I probably wouldn't. I know I definitely wouldn't trade it for the world. So I had the best job, and the best school and staff in Indiana. So I appreciate just the recognition. Thank you.
Mr. Hall, would you do the honor of Charlestown Middle School, the PBIS model site?
I'd love to. Congratulations to Charlestown Middle School for being one of 6 schools in Indiana selected as a model site for PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. PBIS is a systems change method that promotes positive behaviors in students. Strategies are developed that manage student behavior in classroom settings and outside the classroom. It's an all-encompassing system of behavior management where all parties involved are on board so that the behavior management is not produced in a piecemeal way, Instead, all students in the school are accountable with support and behave in ways that positively affect them personally, academically, and socially. An integral piece of Charlestown Middle School's PBIS system is the use of pirate bucks, which serves as currency of the building. Students earn pirate bucks from the adult in the building as a reward for positive behavior, and then the bucks can be redeemed in many ways. Administrators, teachers, counselors, and staff have worked hard to create a consistent expectations for all areas of the building and have taught and modeled these expectations so students know the proper behavior. The board salutes Charlestown Middle School.
I remember, how excited you were as a staff when you were notified of this honor. Again, this is something that's just not given out to a number of schools in the state. You are one of a very, very few and deserving so much of this honor. Again, it doesn't just happen. The commitment that you exhibited as a staff to your students has been exemplary. Anytime I go to the school and I'm around, walking the halls or in classrooms, you can see that the proactive approach that you've taken for your students is definitely getting the results that you need. So on behalf of the school board, on behalf of our administrative team, and really all of our school corporation, we're just so proud of all of you representing Charlestown Middle School for what you've done. It's an honor to have all of you here, and appreciate all your efforts.
I would first of all like to recognize people who could come tonight. I know there are many others. Our whole staff is involved in this. We have Stephanie Chapman. She's on our building leadership team. Emily Lipsy is one of our counselors and sits on our the Tier 2 behavior committee. Justin Snelling, who is our rewards coordinator for the program. Mary Nattinger, who is our head coach, what do you call it? Facilitator, thank you, for all of PBIS. And Brandon Weinbrenner, who's our assistant principal. And Nate. Nate Hayden, our choir teacher, who's taking the pictures to begin the picture. But I would just like to say that this, I truly feel like our staff was deserving of this because our school, from the custodian all the way up to assistant principals, every staff member in our building owns this. And our students are not perfect. We don't have a perfect school with perfect students and perfect teachers. We all make mistakes every day. But I think the key to the success has been the fact that we are constantly looking at what's not working and trying to fix it instead of saying it's never going to work. So I'm very proud of our staff for having that attitude. And I commend them. It's all them. They do all the work. I just say yes and put them to work. Thank you.
Ms. Perkins, would you do the honor of the Administration Building Angel Tree Program?
I would love to. The board salutes the GCCS Administration Building staff for their successful Angel Tree program this year. During the recent Christmas season, staff members purchased gifts for 39 GCCS families. The staff began the program 9 years ago and has provided over 2,500 gifts to Greater Clark County students and families. Thank you to our administration building staff for their generosity, and especially Renee Markowski for coordinating this program.
She hates this. She said she hated me. First of all, she has to work with me on on a daily basis, which is not easy. So I'll just tell you that right now. But I will tell you that Renee has a huge heart. She coordinates this program. She brings it all together. People are bringing gifts in. I mean, it's amazing all the gifts that fly in there, and to see them going out to schools. I had the good fortune of being able to deliver gifts myself. What a great feeling it is to play Santa Claus for 39 families. And Renee is the heart of the program, but our whole administrative staff here has contributed greatly. And so, Renee, I greatly appreciate all your efforts on behalf of 39 families that really, without your efforts, Christmas just wouldn't have been the same. So thank you very much. We're very
We're glad to help this place. This is what we can do from our end. Actually, 24 people from our ad building participated this year, and like he played Santa, a lot of people did, and we couldn't do it without the people here that pitched in, and I sucked them into my world. That's what they tell me upstairs.
And she said she didn't want to say anything.
That's all, but I appreciate everybody, so.
All right, Ms. Gilkey, would you do the honor of the Title I Distinguished Schools, please?
It would be my honor. Congratulations to the staff at Maple Elementary, Wilson Elementary, and North Haven Elementary for being selected as candidates for the Indiana Department of Education's Title I Distinguished Schools Recognition Program. These schools were selected as candidates for the way they demonstrate a wide array of strengths, including team approaches to teaching and learning, focused on professional development opportunities for staff, individualized programs for student success, and strong partnerships between the school's parents and community. Title I funds provide financial assistance to schools with high percentages of children from low-income families to help ensure that all children meet the challenging state academic standards. These 3 schools also received an A rating by the Indiana Department of Education. The board salutes the staff from Maple, North Haven, and Wilson Elementaries.
Standing ovation. What a great night. And it is probably one of the greatest things that we do on a monthly basis is be able to recognize all the great people that we have in our school corporation. You know, these are small plaques, but they're very meaningful. And all of you, as principals of your buildings, Amber Cook from Maple Elementary, Tanya Brady from North Haven, and April Holder from Wilson. You are the leaders of your buildings, and I know you'd be the first to tell me that it's your staffs that are the reason why you were able to earn these awards. But I need to tell you that one thing that really wasn't said is that if I'm not mistaken, both Wilson and Maple, in the category in which you were being considered, you were 2 of, I think, 24 schools across the state of Indiana. Of all the elementaries, there were only 24 schools considered for this. So to be 2 of those 24 from across puts them in a very exclusive category. For North Haven, 1 of 8 schools. Of all the elementary schools in the state being considered in their, for their level of improvement and growth, they were 1 of 8 schools considered and nominated. Now, you weren't selected, but we're every bit as happy and as proud of you for what you've done in terms of your leadership to your schools and your staff's commitment to our kids. So, small token, but very well earned, and appreciate everything you guys do. So, would you like to say anything? Amber?
I would like the staff at Maple that came tonight to stand because this is, you guys, like you just said. They didn't show up quite as many for the A. I think they like the colder weather better. I don't know. Maple is like no other place. There's no place like Maple, and I've learned that this year. And there is a legacy there in this staff and the way they're committed to the children, and it's a beautiful thing. And I hope to continue that with them.
within the past 10 years, Maple was recognized. They actually were a Title I distinguished school. So to have that honor being recognized and then nominated again is quite an awesome feat for the staff to accomplish.
Thank you. Tanya?
I did not ask, many of my staff did not, because we overran you all the last time we were here, so I let them out this evening. But again, just appreciate the support from my friends that are here, because I don't think any of us could do this either without our staff or without each other and our team that supports us. Just as you say, Maple, North Haven is home, and it is home for many reasons for our staff and for kids and for me, and it's a fabulous place to be, and it feels so good to be recognized for all the efforts that they've done since I've been there.
I just want to thank Linda Coates. She is our Title I and AIC coordinator for our school. Wilson's new to the title world. Really, we just come on board with school-wide title in just the last 3 years. With the changing demographics and a changing population, we've had to change our attitude about children and making sure that we go above and beyond to make sure we meet the needs of all students. And so title has brought a wonderful opportunity of an asset of our coordinator, Linda, who goes above and beyond for all of our kids and is able to help all the teachers really meet the needs of students. So we are very fortunate to have the funding and the support, and we make a difference every day in our kids' lives. And I think that that's what, all of us here are honored tonight to just, be able to celebrate the success of our students.
Thank you.
Normally, after we have the board salutes, those who don't want to stay around for the rest of the boring board meeting are excused, but you're more than welcome to stay if you like, so.
It's silly if you do.
There you go. Pretty neat.
All right, so approval of agendas. It's always great to be able to recognize the folks that are getting it done out in our schools, so thank you once again. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes tonight? All right, with that, going to get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. Any questions? All right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next is the approval of the minutes from previous meetings. We have the executive, regular, and special meetings. I'd like to take all those together.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Questions, comments about those? If not, all in favor? All right, 7-0, thank you. Dr. Miller, no public comments on agenda items tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll move on into the consent agenda. We have items 1 through 7 tonight. I'd like to take those together. Unless anyone
So
needs-
move.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. All right. Mr. Hall, would you be so kind as to talk about the gifts to buildings tonight?
Sure.
Okay.
Looks like tonight we are accepting $9,212.66 worth of gifts from the community, which always helps out. It's a big deal to each school. Community Foundation of Southern Indiana, $803 to Jeff High. $500 Charlestown Community Council to Jonathan Jennings to highlight, even if it's $800 down to $8, all gifts are welcome and they will be used. So thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Hall. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Thank you, Ms. Zolman. Any questions? All in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. All right, next item is the action items. We have 7 tonight. So the first one would be the board superintendent roles and communication expectations.
And Board, if you remember, as you remember, we have worked to put together a document that's pretty concise, but hopefully very effective in terms of what we're trying to get accomplished. We're dealing with roles of board members as well as the role of your superintendent and how we can communicate with one another effectively. I've appreciated your feedback and input on the document, and it'd be my recommendation that you approve that document this evening, and I also believe everyone would sign the document to show that we're supporting it.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I support this. I don't, I always feel like you need things in writing. But then during some research, I know it's not like we got to reinvent the wheel. We have a board policy 8101, Code of Ethics of School Board Members, and which is 3 pages and pretty detailed. On the Indiana School Board Association, they have a code of ethics for board members to follow, and then we're going to have this tonight, so we've got a lot of studying to do to be good board members, but it just seems like we got a lot of repetition here, and maybe we need to ask ourselves, are we following board policy that's already in place thoroughly and getting in and going after this? All the administrators know what the board policy is in place. We don't have to invent it as we go on, but use what we have. And I know last year with that Neola, we were paying a company, I don't know how much money to reorganize our board policies, and I don't know where we're at with that, but it seems like we're kind of spinning our wheels in mud. I think we need to get that finished up, get that, and let's move on, and so everyone's got a clear look at the policies that we have in place right now.
Mr. President, may I clarify a couple of things?
Sure.
Mr. Hall is correct. We do have a board policy that outlines our code of ethics. We adopted that about 3 years ago, and it's actually the exact replica of the ISBA code of ethics. We didn't have a code of ethics at the time, and it was desperately needed, so we brought that in about 3 years ago. The difference between the board code of ethics and the communication expectations is that the board ethics is more directed at us as board members, whereas the expectations are more directed between the role and the communication between the superintendent and the board. And so that's why it's different. And that's why I ask that it be brought forward, just to clarify.
Christina and I went to a workshop, I guess, it was in Indianapolis on this, and it was interesting that other school corporations had the same discussion. You know, we have this code of ethics on how we're supposed to behave and all that, but the communication piece and how you communicate back and forth and the expectations were kind of missing in that. It was understood, but this really puts it in black and white, what our expectations going both ways. So I support this too.
All right. Do I have,
Need a motion?
We have a motion.
yeah, we
and
have a
second.
motion. We're getting ready to vote, so.
Great.
Yep. All right. All in favor? Be 7-0. Thank you. Next item is the architect approval, Charlestown High School embankment solution.
To give you a little background information, this is going to be a supplemental agreement to the master contract of design for Ford Design Services dated July 2nd, 2013 between Greater Clark County Schools and Covert Hawkins Architects. The scope of work was determined at a meeting on Wednesday, October 29th, 2014 to discuss a possible design solution for the steep embankment and the wall on the east end of the building. Covert Hawkins will complete a survey of the area for which it will develop alternatives for us to review. Once a design is chosen, we will then hire Covert Hawkins to develop the building, or the bidding specification, and give us an estimated cost to correct the problem. We're having a heck of a time trying to cut the grass on that slope. It's like we have to hire mountain climbers and tie them off because the slope is such a steep angle. If there's garbage in there, we have a heck of a time getting custodians down there to safely remove the garbage so you don't see it from the lower levels. So we actually have two different slopes. One at the very end of the building is accessible, and then the other one is not accessible because you have the concrete wall in front, you've got the walls on the side, and then you have the glass downstairs. So the superintendent recommends that the Board of School Trustees approve Covert Hawkins to conduct a survey and create a design solution for the steep embankment and wall at Charlestown High School.
Thank you, Dr. Dykle.
Oh, I forgot to say it was going to be $9,700.
97. All right. Thank you, Ms. Kraft.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Do we have any questions, comments for Dr. Dykle? I know we've had some interesting displays on that area out there, and so I think it is much needed. So
I've seen that slope numerous times, and it is, but the fee seems pretty expensive, $9,700. I mean, I could tell you for a smaller amount of money, ivy, we got to plant ivy on the slope, not grass, but.
Or get some goats.
Mountain goats would have a hard time.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least what I heard was that when the building was initially built, that there had been a plan for that area, but it was going to be costly, maybe as part of the reduction in the cost of the construction of that building or whatever. There had been a more detailed plan, and they thought, well, I think they planted ivy there, in fact, but you can't get out there. Kids can get down there. Kids can do things as kids might choose to do.
Still throw garbage down there.
We need to have access out to that area. We need to maybe look to tier it, things of that nature. So it's just been an issue ever since I've come in, and I don't know what the final cost factors are going to be. Right now, we just need to get some plans out there to see what potentially would make sense, that would look good, and what are those cost factors, and then we'd have to plan on how would we fund it, because it's not going to be, it's going to be expensive to get the job done, I think. But this is a starting point. Once we make the investment, it's then figuring out, are we in agreement with this looks good, and how are we going to pay for it? I have to build that in.
Further questions?
Is the money coming out at capital projects, Dr. Dykle?
Yes,
Okay.
architectural services.
All right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next item is the temporary interfund loans.
Yes, we do this every year. The county's distribution of our property, bank tax, excise tax, commercial vehicle excise, and financial institution tax, we only get twice a year. During that time, we always have a possibility of any of our funds running into a negative, and we're not supposed to be in a negative at any time during the month, especially at the end of the month, or mainly at June and December. But so we make interfund loans, and we're just asking permission to make interfund temporary loans between the school pension debt fund, capital projects, transportation operating, and bus replacement fund as needed from January to December of this year.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Questions, comments? Dr. Dykle? All right, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. Next item is the rainy day fund expenditure.
Yes, when I present my monthly financial report, the transportation operating fund was the one that we were always concerned about, and we ended up $168,322.48 in the red. So what we're asking permission is, since we cannot be in the red at December 31st in any of our funds, if we have permission to transfer this amount of money into the rainy day fund and bring the transportation operating fund back to a zero balance instead of a negative balance. So.
Okay.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. I think we've kind of seen this one coming all year long, so it's no big surprise. So, all right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next item is the Optum insurance rider.
Yes, I'm excited about this one. In an effort to reduce our costs to Humana, we have been exploring a transplant rider to our health plan called a HOT, Human Organ Tissue Transplant Rider. Nice Lukens presented two companies for us to review, and the insurance company chose Optum. Some of the benefits that we have with it would be a lifetime maximum transplant benefit would be unlimited, annual maximum number of covered transplant procedures for the same type unlimited, lifetime maximum of number of covered transplant procedures of the same type unlimited, network costs for solid organs 100%, network costs for bone marrow 100%, transportation, lodging, and meals maximum $10,000. So if we had one of our employees that needed a transplant of an organ, they could get reimbursed up to $10,000 for their lodging and transportation costs, which I think is great. Private duty nursing care daily maximum unlimited. Private duty nursing care maximum $10,000 per transplant. Donor transportation, medical expenses, and follow-up care 100%. The insurance company feels that Optum is the best company to use, and the cost to the non-reverting fund will be $122,901.84. Now, one transplant is going to blow this away. It's a gamble. If you approve this, none of the costs will go to Humana, which will then reduce our Humana costs, and even more so. We've had one transplant so far last year. We have another one waiting in the wings according to Humana, and the transplant that we had last year was over $178,000. So it's well worth it. So we're recommending Optum as an insurance rider to our Humana healthcare plan.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Any questions, comments for Dr. Daigle?
And this was discussed with our insurance committee, with the teachers.
Yeah, John's here.
The effective date, Dr. Daigle, is it retro?
January 1.
Okay.
We're working some things out between Humana, getting some more information for Optum. They still have some questions back and forth, but hopefully it'll be resolved here shortly, and it'll be a January 1 effective date.
Dr. Daigle, I know we had some savings from our clinic. Is that going to help offset this?
Yeah, I'll present that next month, or next board meeting.
Okay.
Savings. You'll be surprised.
Well, then it's probably a wash at that point then, right, maybe?
That's an awfully big smile on your face.
I didn't mean
And
to
he's dancing!
Did not mean to steal your,
Happy dance.
did not mean to steal your thunder, I'm sorry. All right, any further questions? All in favor? Be 7-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Daigle. Next is the contract with Marjorie Simic Consulting, LLC.
Our Title I funds were approved by the state in December, and as part of the plans for the individual schools that we serve, a couple of the schools would like to continue their meetings with Marge Simic. Last year, she met typically for about 3 times each year with staff, comes in and helps principals do walkthroughs, facilitates looking at student work, and the Spring Hill and Wilson would like to continue these services for this year through Title I funding.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I think this is just to me, too much of an expense, and I would feel that in Greater Clark County Schools, we have our own people on board that can teach each other. And I think our staffs can help each other, or we got A schools, they must be doing something right, whatever they're doing in those buildings. It just seems like this is, I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's good stuff, but I think we could do it in-house.
Part of, I think what has turned around some of these schools in terms of becoming A schools is that they have allowed for outside consultants to come in and to advise, and sometimes you need some fresh eyes. I think Wilson's an example when April kind of talked about their turnaround. Oftentimes when you have turnover in staff and new staff, it's nice to be able, sometimes you're too close to the work, and for someone else to kind of come in and provide their input, their insight, I think it does change the dynamics of the conversation, and it has. When we've talked to, I think Kim has presented before on the early literacy grants, our teachers and our principals have really begged for and asked for Marge's services. I mean, she is an expert in this field, so they feel with Title I, it is supplemental, so not every building is obviously able to utilize these resources.
So what other schools have had this service provided?
Riverside, Bridgepoint, New Washington Elementary, Wilson, obviously, North Haven has in the past, and Marge has been kind of interacting with our district for many, many years. She used to be the director of Title I for the state of Indiana, and so worked with our schools when they were in school improvement, worked through the Public Law 221 planning process. She's been instrumental with that. As she's moved away from that role, she's in a consultant role for literacy, and this is her expertise.
And what did you say the cost was?
It's $2,000 a day for our services.
For each school?
For each school, yeah, so she
So
spends
we're
the entire
talking
day. Right, so
3
they would-
days?
3 days,
So $6,000 per school, $12,000 total.
right.
For each school or for the day for?
$6,000 for the year, for 3 days for the year for each school.
Okay.
And what does it cost for the subs that have to come in for those teachers?
Most of the time, if they can cover within the buildings, they will cover each other's classes or kind of accelerate, it just different buildings, but the average sub cost is right at $60 a day.
So are you using sub?
Sure.
We have, it's the best job embedded professional development that we've been able to do with an outside entity. She comes in and she is just a wealth of information because she does bring a viewpoint outside of Greater Clark and outside of what we're doing. And she comes in and for this, what's on the docket now is we're going to do a new teacher academy. So our new teachers are going to meet with her for 2 hours to build some literacy foundation skills. We also then have planned for grade level meetings to run back to back all day long. So every teacher has an individualized small group plan that she can work with. We're also going to have an opportunity to do school visits. And then we conclude with a building leadership meeting and a faculty meeting. So this day, I mean, from the minute that she gets there till the end, each minute is packed with, lots of different training opportunities for our teachers. I know $2,000 seems like a lot, but when you look at 35 people benefiting from this in a day with no sub cost, and it's all job embedded, so our students still have consistency of instruction, it is just a huge bang for our buck. I know that it is expensive, but I promise you that that money is definitely worthwhile to our teaching force. And in addition to that, in addition to those days, she does not charge us for the personal consultation that she gives us constantly, the documents that she prepares and shares with us. There's just a lot of tools that come with this. She also is able to individualize and plan a program based on the needs of our school and the staff's input on what professional development they need. But she brings an outlook that we don't have because our viewpoint is Southern Indiana located. But there are other things going around the state that she is privy to that I'm not. So it's just it's a breath of fresh air, it's a breath of consistency, and it's just a different pace for all of our teachers. Every teacher, it's not one. We've done train the trainer model. We've sent teachers to the sit and gets across the state. But there's nothing better than job embedded where you have a coach to come in and to really look at the strengths and the needs of your school to put in an action plan. So I really do believe that the money is well worth it, and I promise you that Wilson will put it to good use, and we will use her from start to finish, and I promise to harass her lots of times.
She has oftentimes given us extra extra days goes over and beyond. If we have grant opportunities, she, at no cost to us, comes in and helps us write because she knows and has a relationship with them.
The other thing I just need to say to board is that a focus of this school system, since I came in, has been literacy. And we have 750, almost 800 teachers, and we're all over the board in terms of our skill level with literacy, teaching literacy. So what our goal has been is to develop, we want all of our teachers to be literacy specialists as soon as we possibly can get them there. The schools, the colleges today do not necessarily provide the level of instructional preparation for our new teachers coming in. We're working with our local, like Indiana University Southeast. I've had conversations with them about this. So we're trying to get all of our teachers to a higher level of literacy, not just at the elementary level, but also through that secondary level with our middle school and high school. And so we have a plan of attack that we will be able to provide you by the end of this year that's going to lead to professional development to enhance these literacy specialists across our entire school system, and therefore the experts, we will be at that level where our own people will be able to provide that level. There's no more reading recovery. We have some teachers reading recovery trained in our district, but that's been a program that's not been in existence for a while. We have Reading First was also another program, but these are primarily elementary-based programs which are important, but we need to take literacy to another level, and it needs to go K through 12 for every single teacher in our district. So Marge Simic is just part of the equation. It would be my hope that over the next year or so, we'll need less of Marge Simic because we will have our own people at that high level where people will want to come to us and see what we're doing from a literacy perspective. We're just not there quite yet.
You know, I respect those comments, and I really respect April's comments. Thank you. But I'm still stuck on this logic, old school logic. If I hire a man to come change the filter on my pool, I'm going to watch him, and I'm not going to pay him again to come change the filter. I'm going to do it myself. So that's where I'm at with this.
Well, I think the job embedded approach isn't that Marge comes in, she's actually working directly with teachers in classrooms, so it becomes something that our teachers become very familiar with what she's trying to implement. The teachers are implementing in the classroom. They can therefore be of assistance to one another. It's not the sit and get where Marge is just providing a presentation to a bunch of teachers, right? She's actually...
Absolutely. And this is a critical time. The filters are changing. Every 6 months, the state of Indiana is giving us new testing, new standards, new everything. And this is an expert that can help us navigate that so that we don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and start over. Instead, we stay true to what we believe in Greater Clark are the foundations of what we do, but also helps us to up our ante to prepare our kids for these new assessments and the new things that are coming on board. And that brings a viewpoint outside of Greater Clark that we don't have. She sits on boards and she works in other school systems to see where all of the schools are trying to face these new standards and these new assessments. And I don't have the luxury of doing that. So every time, I do learn from her, and that's the beauty with our zero periods. Once she leaves, Linda Coates and I provide professional development in the interim so that we can continue to make sure that what she gives us is actually implemented and we have follow-up sessions. So we do learn, and it is a great growth opportunity for our leadership team and myself.
Well, I think when you bring someone in that's going to be doing 100% best practice, it costs money. And I've been on the other side of that from the business world where we brought in consultants, and they do bring a perspective that you can't get within your particular building, your particular corporation, what have you. And I know we've paid some large sums of money, but it's been worth every dime of it once we were able to take back what they brought in. And again, 100% best practice, it's hard to get that, for one person coming in from another school system that's going to walk around. So I support it. I think it makes sense. So, all right, any further questions? If not, all in favor? B6, all opposed? And 1. Thank you.
2.
Two.
5-2.
I'm sorry, did I miss somebody? I'm sorry, okay. Sorry, Teresa. All right, 5-2. All right, next item is the reopening of the New Washington Middle High School pool.
Board, as you may remember, the New Washington pool was closed in the summer of 2013. There was a leak, and that leak needed to be repaired, and so the pool had to be drained to find the problem. The problem was identified, but before we made the commitment to refill the pool, which costs thousands of dollars to repair and fill a pool, and also to maintain, which is roughly $60,000 a year, we wanted to make sure that we checked pool utilization because that's been an issue in the past. A lot of money was spent. It's the largest pool we have in Greater Clark, and but it was underutilized, in my opinion, by the school and the community. So I asked Principal Ledbetter to work with Principal Gooden and start to develop a plan. And I think Principal Ledbetter really took this on. And I said we needed to have commitments not only from our students and teachers in both schools, but we also had to have community commitments. And so, Mr. Ledbetter, it took some time, but we've provided you with a proposal that includes some community-based commitments. There's been a foundation commitment of $5,000. I believe they're also going to give another $5,000. It certainly doesn't come to paying for the cost of the pool, but lifeguards can be trained and provided, which is a huge issue. I have to be honest, I have reservations about this. I think this is the third time that this issue has come about, but what I would suggest, Ben Ledbetter has done exactly what I asked him to do. There's a proposal, there are commitments, they're in writing, there's been some money put forward. I believe we need to give the pool one more opportunity to be open, but I also would suggest as part of my recommendation that there would be twice a year reports of utilization provided to us to make sure that all of the stakeholders for the pool up there are actually utilizing the pool on a consistent basis. And this isn't in my recommendation, but I did want you to know that I'll be expecting the same pool utilization reports from the other pools that we have in our district so that we have a baseline to compare it to. We did do some work prior to making this decision to not open it right away. We knew that the pool at New Washington was extremely underutilized relative to the other pools, but I want to be able to provide that documentation to you as well in the future. So my recommendation is we go ahead, pay the money, repair the pool, fill the pool, and hold all the stakeholders accountable to utilize it because it's a great asset and it just needs to be utilized on a consistent basis. And again, per the fact that they also need to have 2 utilization reports per year. Probably January and June would be my recommendation for that.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Any questions, comments for Dr. Mellon?
Did you give a cost of what this would cost?
The
Total cost?
The total cost of the repairs, I think the total cost of the repairs and the filling of the pool, it's not on here. I thought it was around $13,000. Pool repairs are $13,000. To fill the pool will be expensive. And then, so I'm thinking, I thought it was going to be somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 to get it up and running.
Will
And
this
then-
be utilized only during the school year, or will it be available for summer use?
I told Mr. Ledbetter that as far as the community, if the community wanted to utilize it in the pool or during the summer, that would be perfectly fine. The key factor, and one of the areas of greatest concern I found was lifeguards. You have to have enough lifeguards, and to make sure New Washington, in terms of its location, we have to train either individuals from that immediate area. But Mr. Ledbetter went to work on that, and he feels, I think there's a plan to train lifeguards, and so I think it's worth, if the community wants to utilize it in the summer months, there's nothing that's going to stop them from my perspective.
I think Mr. Ledbetter did a great job of putting this together. I called him and told him so, but in his proposal that he does talk about the summer use of conditioning for athletes, and also the YMCA. He's got their commitment. I think that's going to be great for that community to have YMCA swim programs. YMCA has all kinds of things that is healthy lifestyles, so in a pool. So looks like to me he's dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, and I really think we should give it a chance. Every second grader is going to have an opportunity to get in that swimming pool, is the way I understand it. That, to me, is worth it.
This was our dream when we built the building, that every child that graduated out of there would know how to swim, especially kids in New Washington where there's so many other water sources. We really felt when we built that building that was a very important part of it. So I'm very happy to see that happen.
Dr. Mellon, do we have staff members that have that certification at New Washington now to teach or to conduct a swimming class?
I don't think so. I don't think that we have anyone there. I'd have to double check this, but that's, Mr. Ledbetter knows that we have to make sure that we have lifeguards, because it's not just the teachers. They have to be there to teach, but even with a teacher there to teach, you still have to have lifeguards on duty. So that's the other issue, is the teachers need to be there to teach, but you have to have lifeguards, certified lifeguards present at all times when the pool's open.
And then presently, right now, let's say at Charlestown Middle School, they have a pool. Are the PE classes using that pool during the day right now?
Yeah, PE classes are in other pools in our area are using pools during the day for PE. Not every day all year round necessarily, but maybe during certain 9-week sessions and so on. So they are using them during the school day.
Okay, and at River Valley, that pool is used by PE classes, and at Jeff High, how many classes are using that pool during the day? Is any?
I don't know. We can double check that, but we know that the benefit, the other buildings, the other pools were being used consistently during the day and in the evenings. And predominantly one of the main issues is that all these other schools host swim teams. And so that right then and there, when you have swim teams, swim clubs, that automatically greatly increases the utilization, especially after hours. The Jeff High pool, there are kids in there at, I'm not sure, 5:30 in the morning.
A parent of swimmers I know is
Yeah.
5:30.
So a lot of times, the swimmers and swim clubs are using it in the early morning hours as well as late night as well.
Well, I believe the expectations Mr. Ledbetter developed at New Washington, we ought to really push that at our other pools to make sure that during the school day, they're utilized 100%.
Well, I mean, I think we made a commitment to New Washington that if they met the guidelines that you put out, that we would fill that pool. And I mean, they did, and I think we need to do that. So need to keep our word on it. And, you've got some measurements in place that every 6 months, if it's not working out, then we can move back on it. But I mean, I think they've done what they said they were going to do, and I'm all for moving forward.
I want to commend Mr. Ledbetter because he did. He stayed with it. It wasn't easy, but he stayed with it, and he definitely accepted the challenge, and I want to commend him for that.
Yes.
So Dr. Mellon, you're asking for us to vote to reopen the pool. So let's say after, a year, the utilization reports aren't coming back, that the cost is, that it justifies the use. So then will a motion come back to us or a recommendation come back to us to close the pool?
I would tell you that that's always, at any of our pools or in any of our facilities, that's always a possibility. I'd rather go into it with the mindset that we're going to be able to keep this going in a positive direction. But pools are very expensive. The insurance costs, the operating costs. Our district is very lucky to have as many pools as we have, but also, it's also a great challenge financially on us as well. So I think we we continue to monitor the utilization, we continue to hold people accountable, not just at New Washington, but all the pools. And I'll be happy to provide maybe to you, whether I provide it twice a year or at least an annual report to you on pool utilization. Maybe each June I could do that for you as a board, is bring that forward. But the goal going in here is I want them to be successful. And that's why I want them to do the work up front to get the commitments to make sure. And they've done that.
But my question is, I don't remember us having a say in, once we realized it needed to be repaired and the decision was made just not to, I don't remember that coming to us. Now we're being asked to vote to reopen it. So then are we going to be, if there's a problem, will it come back to us to ask us to approve closing it? So if we're going to be responsible for opening it, I would like to be able to make the decision to close it, is what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, and I think what we would tell you is this. When the pool was drained in the summer of 2013, we didn't drain it with the purpose of it closing. We drained it with the purpose of finding out what the problem was. Once it was closed and we realized how expensive it would be to repair, as well as the annual operating costs, then I wanted to see how can we justify that expense, because if you remember, back then we were still financially struggling, and $60,000 as a teacher. That's how I sort of view things. And so is a teacher more valuable than $60,000 for a pool? So we have to balance that, and justify. So if, in fact, the utilization was down and we wanted to permanently close the pool, I feel obligated to come to you as a board.
Okay.
That would have to be your ultimate decision.
Okay. Then that would be for any pool?
For any pool.
Okay. I just
But
wanted to clarify
the New
that.
Washington case was we drained it to repair it, and we didn't drain it with the purpose of closing. So that's why it wasn't brought to you at that point.
Gotcha.
Do you
Thank
know
you.
what the shallow end depth is?
No, I think it's the deepest pool that we have.
Right. But I was looking at this second grade
4 feet.
swim lessons. I don't know how.
4 feet. 4 feet. Amber Cook and Tanya Brading, who both were up there. It's a 4-foot shallow end.
Yeah.
12 feet.
I got into that in a farmer life, and we were doing swim lessons for little kids in the summer at our pools in New Albany, Floyd County, and we had to bring in, they're not lifts, you put them in the bottom of the pool, and it makes the pool less deep so that their little heads didn't go under the water when they stood there. But anyway, I'm sure if the Y's going to do that, they know, they've looked at the pool and they know they're going to have to provide that. Your filters probably won't work right.
Oh, my God.
Now you have a 2-foot depth
There
of the
you
shallow end.
Of course, the water would be stinky and it wouldn't filter properly, but that's okay, yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. 4 feet, all right.
All right, any further questions? I'm afraid to ask. All right, all in favor? I think that's 7-0. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is board reports and requests. So, Mr. White?
I have none, thank you.
Ms. Perkins? No. Zoman? No. Ms. Kraft?
Did we ever write the letter to the state?
We ought to do that.
I have a draft that I've put together. I'm having our team review it, and then I will forward it on to you as a board to see it. So I have the draft out, but it's in the hands now of my team to get their opinion,
Okay.
and then I will then forward it to you, so that hopefully by the end of this week, we could send it.
This is a good time to be sending it.
Yes, it is.
Yep,
Yes, okay.
while they're in session. Mr. Hall?
No, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Gilkey?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Dr. Miller, no public comments on non-agenda items tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so we'll finish up with board comments. Mr. White?
Well, I want to congratulate and sing the praises of all of our staff, both in the schools and the administration building. Everybody can have a school building, but everybody can have the staffs that we have, and I really appreciate all of you.
Yeah. Okay. Ms. Perkins?
I'm glad Amber's still here. I had the, Ms. Crafton, I had the most wonderful day there. We went to the Bears on Parade. And if you haven't done that yet, Board, you must plan on that for next year. What was the name of the gentleman? What was the company that was there? The big guys that were passing out the bears? Steel Dynamics, all these big steel worker guys, and with their little hats on, and little bitty kindergartners coming up, preschoolers coming up to them and saying, I could not believe how organized that was, and how the faces on the kids, and I'm going to be part of it every year. So just, I've already been collecting bears.
Ms. Ullman?
I want to thank everybody for helping me get started with this. I've got a lot to learn, but I want to thank Dr. Mellon and especially Renee for putting up with me with all my questions. And I have a lot to learn, but I'm looking forward to this.
Ms. Kraft?
We're glad to have you. Welcome aboard.
Mr. Hall?
I'd like to welcome Ms. Zollman on board. It's nice to have you.
Ms. Gilkey?
I also want to formally welcome Teresa, and I think this might be the first time that the women have been the majority. So let's recognize that, okay?
Yeah.
But
Now
I think
we'll get some work done.
I think we have a great mix.
You're going to make us do it?
Yeah, but Mark's got the gavel.
True. But I think we have a great mix. You know, we have 3 educators, former educators. We have 3 self-employed folks, and then we have Mark, who is, you know, has a tremendous amount of knowledge in the business world, working with unions and management, and I think it's a great mix. Each of us has something, you know, that we bring to the table. We can all learn from one another, and I'm excited about what the next 2 years are going to bring. I want to compliment all of our staff and our administration. We have so many great things going on in this school corporation, and I just want to wish everyone a happy and healthy new year.
Thank you. The only thing I had is Dr. Holder. I had a fabulous visit to your school, and I very much appreciate the hospitality, and it was very enlightening to see all the little kiddos running around, and so I very much appreciate that. I don't think I had a chance to tell you that because I was on a hurry to get out that day, but anyway. Dr. Mellon? Oh, by the way, with Dr. Mellon, we're tied. We're 4-4, so I just want to say
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't get to vote.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Welcome, Mrs. Zollman. Oh, yeah, and Renee, I see you outnumbered, no matter how you cut it.
That's right.
I live by the adage, happy wife, happy life. So you keep people happy and you'll be fine. But welcome, Mrs. Zollman, to the team. Look forward to working with you as well. And the last thing I just wanted to say is, you know, prior to Christmas, you get around to our buildings and you know, you see this great heart that our people have in them for our kids. And it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter whether you're in Clarksville or Jeffersonville or Charlestown or New Washington. Our people have a great heart for kids. And it makes you feel so good about being part of this situation, because we can have state accountability and you can have any financial issues that are out there, and we'll continue to fight those fights. But the bottom line is you've got to care a great deal about our kids. And I believe that we have 1,400 plus employees that do that. And they demonstrate that on a daily basis. And to be able to honor so many of them this evening. I mean, these are premier people we just honored tonight. These are state-level premier entities. Our schools, the Title I schools, Nate Hayden, Charlestown Middle School is a pilot for the state of Indiana. We want to be a premier provider of education. And we've got premier people doing premier things. And I'm very proud to be part of that. And I wish everyone a great new year.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mellon. All right, with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. All in favor? 7-0. Good night.